In this video, we will be going over the independent work assigned in class on the 30th of September. And we are going to, if you notice on the bottom left of your page, it says independent work 930. We are starting with question number 1. A room has an area of 180 square feet. A customer needs an area rug that is exactly 2/5 of the area of this room. Which area for the rug fits these conditions? So all I need to do is multiply 180 by 2/5 to figure out how much 2/5 of 180 is. So when we multiply, we go straight across the top. 2 times 180 is 360, and 1 times 5 is 5. Now I need to go ahead and divide this out. So in the house is going to be the numerator, 360, and outside the house is the denominator, 5. 5 does not go into 3, but it does go into 36, and it does so 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35, so that leaves us with 10, and 5 goes into 10 twice. So 72 square feet is the answer to number 1. Question number 2 asks us to use the distributive property and says, using the distributive property, which expression is equivalent to -1/2 times 24 minus 16. Now, when you have two sets of parentheses right up next to each other with nothing in between, that means you're going to multiply. And whenever we distribute, we take whatever's outside here and put it here and here. So, as we distribute, we're going to be multiplying -1/2 by 24. So, -1/2 times 24 is going to be -12. Then we are going to be subtracting, and -1/2 times 16. So that's going to give us a negative, and 1/2 times 16 is going to be 8. Now, we've got two negatives next to each other, so they're going to get married and become a positive because marriage is a positive thing. That leaves us with -12 plus 8. If you look at your answer choices, answer choice number B is -12 plus 8. Moving on, question number 3 states that a group of 24 students paid to go to a museum, and 1/3 of those 24 also paid to attend a 3D movie at the museum. The ticket prices are shown below. It's $13.50 for each museum admission. It is $4.50 for each 3D movie admission. The question wants us to find out what the total dollar amount this group of students spent on the museum and the 3D movie tickets. So, we're going to have several steps here. One step is going to go ahead and be to multiply 24 by 1350 to find out the total cost of all 24 tickets to enter the museum. Then, we need to go ahead and multiply 24 by 1/3 to find out the number of students who purchased movie tickets for the 3D movie. Once we have that number, we're going to need to multiply that by the $4.50 to find out how much they spent on the 3D movie tickets. Then we need to add our two sums together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start by finding out how many students went to see the 3D movie. So we're going to do 24 over 1 times 1/3. Multiplying straight across gives me 24/3. And 24 divided by 3 is going to equal 8. So 8 students paid the $4.50 to go see the 3D movie. Now I'm going to start multiplying the number of students by the ticket prices to find out how much was spent on each type of ticket. I'm going to go ahead and start with the 8 students and the $4.50 since we've recently been working on that. So 4 2.50 times 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32 plus 4 is 36. Now, since I have 2 places behind a decimal, I'm going to take this decimal and move it 2 places over. So $36 were spent on tickets to the 3D movie. Now let's look at how much was spent on tickets to the actual museum. We're going to multiply our $13.50 admission by 24. So 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 1 times 4 plus 1 is going to be 5. Then we place our 0 there. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7, and then 2 times 1 is 2. We'll add these up. And then we have 2 places again behind the decimal, so we'll move our decimal over here 2 places. We spent $324 on movie tickets, or on museum tickets. Now I simply need to add these 2 numbers up. So over here on the side, I'm going to add 324 and 36. 4 and 6 is 10. 2 and 3 is 5 plus 1 is 6. And then we have 3. So we spent $360 total on the museum trip. And if you look at your answer choices, that is answer choice C. Question number 4 asks for the product of -6/8 and 2/3. So it's simple multiplication. You just multiply straight across. 6 times 2 is 12, and 8 times 3 is 24. We have a negative times a positive, so that's going to equal a negative. And then we can reduce this to -1/2. Looking at your answer choices, that is answer choice letter C. Question number 5 is located on the second half sheet that you were given that also says independent work 930 at the bottom. This should also say in the bottom right, page 3 of 3, and your last one should have said page 2 of 3. So question number 5 goes to ask us what the value of -6 1/2 times 1 1/4 is. So our first step is to turn our improper fractions our mixed numbers into improper fractions. So 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 gives us 13/2, and it remains negative. 1 times 4 plus 1 gives us 5/4, and it remains positive. Now we multiply across the top. 5 times 13 is 65, and then 2 times 4 is 8, and then we need to reduce. So we're going to put 65 in the house, 8 outside the house. 8 does not go into 6, but it does go into 65. And it goes in 8 times. So 8 times 8 is 64, which leaves us with 1. Now remember, every single whole number has an invisible decimal behind it with an infinite number of zeros. So we're going to go ahead and drop one of those zeros down and make sure that we pull our decimal up. The other option is to realize that we can continue to make this a decimal, but we don't have any decimal answer choices. So we can recognize that 8 is going to be our whole number. 8 is still going to be our denominator because it is our denominator up here. So we keep the same 1, and since the remainder was 1, we have 1 left over. So it's 8 1/8. Now we need to remember that since we did multiply a negative and a positive over here, our answer should also be negative. If you look at your answer choices, answer choice A is -8 1/8. Question number 6 asks us to find the value of -0.13 divided by -2.6. So in this situation, in the house goes the number being divided, 0.13, and outside the house goes the number dividing it, 2.6. Now, we've got a problem. We've got a decimal here. So we're going to move it over 1, and what we do there, we must also do there. So our decimal is going to be here now. 26 does not go into 0. It does not go into 1. And it still does not go into 13. But remember, we've got these infinite zeros back here, right? So 26 will go into 130. Furthermore, it will go in exactly 5 times. 5 times 26 is 130. So this is going to be a negative 0.05. What we need to determine now if it's going to be negative or positive. So I'm dividing, and I'm dividing two negatives. So I'm dividing two things with the same sign, so my answer is going to be positive. So the answer is positive 0.05, which is answer choice C. Moving on to question 7. It reads, Carol ran 3.4 miles every day for 14 days. How many total miles did Carol run? So all we need to do is multiply 3.4 by 14. So let's set this up vertically to make a little bit more sense to us. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1, which is 13. Then we put our placeholder 0 there. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 3 is 3. Add them together. And then we realize that we have a decimal place here. So we need to move a decimal place over here. So our answer is that she ran 47.6 miles, which is answer choice C. Now finally, let's go over question 8. Brian cut a piece of wood that is 10 1/2 meters long into 3 equal pieces. What is the length of one of the pieces of wood? So here we're simply going to divide. Now, we have two options. We can either turn 10 1/2 into an improper fraction, put 3 over 1, flip the reciprocal, do the inverse operation, and multiply, and then reduce. Or we can turn 10 1/2 into a decimal and divide. Personally, I think turning it into a decimal is going to be a little bit easier, so that's the way that I'm going to show you here. So 10 1/2 is simply 10.5, and it's being divided by 3. 3 does not go into 1, but it goes into 10, and it goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, leaves you with a remainder of 1. Bring down the 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. Don't forget to move the decimal up. 3 times 5 is 15, leaves you with a remainder of 0. So he can cut 3 1/2 meters long pieces of wood. 3 1/2 meters long pieces of wood. This also translates into 3 1/2, which, if you look, is answer choice B.